Ever wondered what a nuclear showdown between Africa, America, and Russia would look like in the 19th century? Sounds wild, right? Well, buckle up. We're about to embark on a journey through history with a twist. Imagine a world where steam engines and telegraphs coexist with nuclear arsenals. Intrigued? Let's dive into this blend of history and what-if scenarios and explore a past that never was but could make you think, what if? Number 1. Setting the historical stage. The 19th century was an era of empires, revolutions, and rapid technological advancements. It was a time when the world as we know it was being remolded by the hands of progress and power. The century kicked off with the Napoleonic Wars, reshaping Europe. The United States, still a young nation, was expanding westward, inching towards its manifest destiny. Meanwhile, the Industrial Revolution was in full swing, introducing steam power and mechanization that revolutionized transportation and manufacturing. Telegraph lines began to weave a web of rapid communication, shrinking the vast distances of the world. Africa, often misunderstood and underestimated, was a mosaic of diverse kingdoms and communities. Contrary to popular beliefs, it was not merely a land to be carved up by colonial powers. Instead, it was home to advanced civilizations like the Ashanti Empire and the Zulu Kingdom, each with their own rich cultures and histories. However, the shadow of European imperialism was looming, with the scramble for Africa set to redraw the continent's map. Tsarist Russia was an empire stretching across 2 continents, grappling with its own complexities. The 19th century saw the Russian Empire expanding in Asia, while dealing with internal pressures for reform and modernization. The serfdom system was a ticking time bomb of social unrest, and the winds of change were blowing through the vast steppes and cities alike. This century also witnessed significant changes in warfare. The Crimean War, for instance, showcased the lethal combination of industrial-age technology and traditional combat tactics. However, nuclear technology, as we know it, was not even on the horizon. The idea of splitting the atom was a concept left for the 20th century. The international stage was a chessboard of alliances, treaties, and rivalries. The Monroe Doctrine asserted American influence in the Western Hemisphere, while European powers jostled for colonial supremacy. Africa, with its immense resources and strategic importance, was at the center of these geopolitical games. Number 2. The hypothetical scenario: Africa versus America and Russia. Let's paint a picture of a world that never was, but could tickle the imagination. Imagine, if you will, a 19th century Earth where steam-powered trains chug alongside a secret development: nuclear technology. Sounds like a plot from a Jules Verne novel, doesn't it? But let's indulge in this historical fantasy for a moment. The year is 1880, and tensions are brewing. In this alternate reality, an unlikely alliance has formed between several African kingdoms and empires, united by a shared desire to resist European colonization and assert their sovereignty, their secret weapon. A groundbreaking discovery of uranium-rich mines and the knowledge to harness this power for weaponry shared mysteriously among them. Across the Atlantic, the United States, emerging as a world power, views this alliance with a mix of awe and apprehension. Meanwhile, Russia, an empire stretching across continents, is wary of this new player on the global stage. The catalyst for conflict comes from an unexpected quarter. A minor skirmish between American explorers and an African military unit in the heart of the Congo Basin escalates rapidly. News of the skirmish, traveling by telegraph, ignites public outrage on both sides. Russia, seeing an opportunity to expand its influence and check American power, throws its lot in with the United States. War breaks out, a war unlike any seen before. African forces, using their rudimentary but surprisingly effective nuclear arsenal, launch a devastating strike against American naval bases in the Caribbean. The world watches in horror as mushroom clouds rise where once there were bustling ports. America, unprepared for this kind of warfare and with a military still reliant on traditional arms, scrambles to respond. Russia, facing its own challenges with the vast distances and logistical nightmares of its empire, finds itself struggling to mobilize effectively. In our alternate 19th century, nuclear technology is crude but terrifyingly effective. Safety protocols are non-existent, and the understanding of radiation and its effects is rudimentary at best. The world is awash in a dangerous game of nuclear brinkmanship, with rudimentary bombs being deployed in ways that would make any modern strategist blanch. The African alliance, leveraging its nuclear capabilities, pushes its advantages. They strike key targets in both America and Russia, causing unprecedented destruction. However, these nations are not without their resources. America, with its industrial prowess, and Russia, with its vast natural and human resources, start to adapt and respond. The tide of war begins to turn as America and Russia, through a combination of industrial espionage and their own scientific breakthroughs, develop their own nuclear weapons. A series of retaliatory strikes are launched against major African cities and military installations. The world holds its breath as these three powers teeter on the brink of mutual annihilation. African, American, and Russian cities lay in ruins, and the global economy is in shambles. The specter of nuclear winter starts to loom over the planet. In this alternate timeline, the war eventually grinds to a halt, not through victory or defeat, but through mutual exhaustion and the dawning realization of the horrors unleashed. The African alliance, its cities in ruins, reluctantly comes to the negotiating table. America and Russia, equally devastated, have little appetite for further conflict. Number 3. Anachronisms, the nuclear element. In our journey through this alternate version of the 19th century, where Africa, America, and Russia are locked in a nuclear conflict, we encounter a glaring anachronism: the presence of nuclear technology in an era defined by steam engines and telegraphs. Let's delve into this curious juxtaposition and explore the real history of nuclear technology, contrasting it with our imaginative scenario. In the actual 19th century, the scientific community was making leaps in understanding electricity, magnetism, and the basic building blocks of matter. Thinkers like Michael Faraday and James Clerk Maxwell were laying the groundwork for future discoveries, but the atom's internal workings remained a mystery. The era was marked by the Industrial Revolution, characterized by steam power, the rise of factories, and the expansion of railways. Communication breakthroughs like the telegraph were cutting edge, and the idea of harnessing the atom's power was more science fiction than science fact. Fast forward to the 20th century, when the real nuclear age began. It wasn't until the early 1900s that scientists like Ernest Rutherford started to unravel the atom's secrets: the discovery of nuclear fission. The process of splitting an atom to release vast amounts of energy was a pivotal moment in science. This discovery, made in the 1930s, laid the foundation for the development of nuclear weapons during World War II. In our alternate history scenario, the discovery and utilization of nuclear technology in the 19th century is a dramatic leap forward, skipping over decades of scientific discovery and experimentation. It's akin to finding a smartphone in the Victorian era, an exciting yet incongruous blend of timelines. In our fictional world, the emergence of nuclear weapons in the 19th century leads to a bizarre arms race. African empires, America, and Russia, all steeped in the technology and tactics of the era, now have a new devastating weapon at their disposal. The strategic doctrines of the time, designed for cavalry charges and naval blockades, are ill-suited for this new era of atomic power. The development of nuclear weapons in this timeline would have been rudimentary, likely without the understanding of radioactive fallout and long-term environmental consequences. The world would be witnessing the catastrophic power of atomic explosions without the scientific background to fully grasp or manage the aftermath. Imagine the societal shock in a world where news is disseminated through newspapers and telegraphs, suddenly learning about cities being obliterated by unseen, almost magical forces. The psychological impact on the 19th century populace, already grappling with the rapid changes of the Industrial Revolution, would be profound. Military tactics would undergo a drastic, albeit confused, transformation. Generals trained in the art of 19th century warfare would find themselves in uncharted territory, directing a war that bears no resemblance to anything in their manuals or experience. Number 4. Impact and aftermath. In our alternate history of a 19th century nuclear conflict between Africa, America, and Russia, the immediate aftermath is as dramatic as the war itself. The world reels from the shock of nuclear devastation, and the global landscape is forever altered.
City below us, there was nothing down there but what, in my vernacular, was a black, boiling mess.
Let's explore the far-reaching consequences of this imagined nuclear war and the long-term impact on geopolitics, society, and the environment. In the wake of the conflict, the traditional notions of empire and colonialism are upended. The African alliance, having demonstrated immense power but suffering great losses, emerges as a force that can no longer be ignored or easily colonized. The balance of power shifts dramatically, with European powers re-evaluating their colonial ambitions. America and Russia, both significantly weakened, find their global influence diminished.
Supplies next produce the master weapon, the H-bomb.
The United States, focused on rebuilding its shattered cities and infrastructure, turns inwards, delaying its rise as a world power. Russia faces immense challenges in managing its vast, now partially irradiated territories, slowing its industrialization and modernization efforts. The global economy enters a period of turmoil. Trade routes are disrupted, and nations become more insular, focusing on domestic recovery. This leads to a slowdown in global economic growth and a temporary retreat from the burgeoning globalization of the 19th century. The societal impact of the war is profound. Populations struggle to come to terms with the horrors of nuclear warfare. In a world where news travels via telegraph and newspapers, the graphic descriptions of the devastation and the mysterious invisible killer that is radiation sickness stir a mix of fear, awe, and a deep sense of vulnerability. This leads to a global reckoning with the nature of war and power. Movements advocating for peace and disarmament gain momentum, and there's a newfound emphasis on diplomacy and international cooperation. The war serves as a grim reminder of the catastrophic potential of unchecked technological advancement and militarism. The unexpected leap into nuclear technology spurs a revolution in science and technology. The need to understand and mitigate the effects of radiation accelerates research in physics, chemistry, and medicine. This also leads to early advancements in safety protocols and nuclear energy, as the world recognizes the need to harness such powerful technology responsibly. However, the focus on nuclear technology comes at a cost. Other areas of science and technology, particularly those related to quality of life and industrial efficiency, see a slowdown in development. The war's devastation necessitates a reallocation of resources, prioritizing immediate recovery and defense over other forms of technological progress.
But an Italian sculptor who makes cartoons with masks has evidently dreamt up a happy ending to the whole story.
The environmental impact of the war is catastrophic. The use of primitive nuclear weapons, lacking the safety and precision of later designs, results in widespread ecological damage. Radioactive fallout affects large swathes of land, leading to agricultural crises, food shortages, and long-term health effects such as cancer and genetic mutations. Biodiversity suffers greatly, with numerous species affected by radiation and habitat destruction. This leads to a greater awareness of environmental issues, much earlier than in our timeline, and sparks early conservation efforts. The war leaves an indelible mark on global culture and the collective psyche. Art, literature, and music reflect the themes of destruction, survival, and the ethical dilemmas posed by advanced technology. There's a surge in philosophical and theological discourse as people grapple with the moral implications of their newfound power to destroy on such a massive scale. This cultural shift also influences international relations. The concept of mutually assured destruction takes root, fostering a cautious approach to international conflicts and a greater emphasis on diplomatic resolutions. As the years pass, the memory of the war and its lessons shape the course of the 20th century.
The European Cold War crisis is over, but it is just the beginning.
Nations invest in early warning systems, international treaties regulate the use of advanced weaponry, and a global community emerges with a shared commitment to preventing such a catastrophe from ever happening again. Number 5. Reflections on historical accuracy and creative speculation. As we step back from the alternate history of a 19th century nuclear war between Africa, America, and Russia, it's essential to reflect on the blend of historical accuracy and creative speculation that has guided this narrative. This exercise, while purely speculative, offers valuable insights into the nature of history, the progression of technology, and the consequences of human actions. In our real world, the 19th century was a period of significant change, but it was not the era of nuclear weapons. The development of such technology was a product of the 20th century, shaped by 2 world wars and a Cold War. This discrepancy highlights the importance of understanding historical context. By placing anachronistic technology in the 19th century, we gain a clearer view of the actual technological and political landscape of that time. The scenario also underscores how history is often a tapestry of slow, incremental changes rather than dramatic leaps. The real story of the 19th century is one of industrialization, colonialism, and the foundations of modern international relations, not nuclear brinkmanship. Creative speculation, like the scenario we've explored, serves as a tool for understanding history. By imagining what-if scenarios, we can better appreciate the significance of actual historical events and decisions. For instance, considering a 19th century world ravaged by nuclear weapons allows us to understand the profound impact of nuclear technology in our own timeline and the importance of the decisions that led to its development and subsequent control.
The USA is the only country in the world in possession of the atomic bomb. Each one can vaporize over 70,000 people.
This kind of speculative history also invites us to think critically about the nature of power, technological advancement, and their impacts on society. It challenges us to consider how different choices could have led to vastly different outcomes.
Seconds, but those who have experienced it say that in no gravity, time seems to stretch out, and you gradually do learn to navigate.
Our journey into this alternate history highlights the evolution of technology and warfare. In reality, the development of nuclear weapons was a complex process that involved numerous scientific breakthroughs and political decisions.
Destroyed the independence and democratic character of a whole series of nations in Eastern and Central Europe.
By transplanting this technology into an earlier era, we can better appreciate the complexities and dangers associated with it. The scenario also serves as a reminder of the ethical considerations that come with technological advancement. The real history of nuclear technology is not just a story of scientific achievement, but also one of moral dilemmas and the responsibility that comes with power. Engaging in counterfactual history, imagining how different choices and events might have changed the course of history, is a valuable exercise. It not only provides a fresh perspective on the past, but also stimulates critical thinking about the present and future. In our scenario, we see how different the world might have been with the early introduction of nuclear weapons. This prompts questions about our current world. How do we manage and control powerful technologies? What lessons have we learned from the past, and how do they inform our decisions today? Reflecting on this alternate history, we can draw lessons applicable to our own time. The importance of responsible scientific innovation, the need for international cooperation in the face of global threats, and the consequences of escalating conflicts are as relevant today as they would have been in this imagined 19th century world. Number 6. The role of imagined histories in shaping our worldview. In our exploration of a fictitious 19th century nuclear war between Africa, America, and Russia, we've traversed a landscape that blends the real with the imagined. This chapter steps back to consider the broader implications of such imagined histories. How do these narratives, though grounded in fiction, influence our understanding of the past and our perspective on the present and future? By envisioning a world vastly different from our own, we gain a clearer understanding of the actual historical trajectory. The contrast between our reality and the imagined scenario starkens our appreciation of the events that did occur. For instance, understanding the technological limitations of the 19th century, when juxtaposed with a fictional early onset of nuclear technology, highlights the real pace of scientific progress and the societal changes that accompanied it. The question, "What if?" is a powerful tool in both education and entertainment. It encourages us to think critically about cause and effect, to explore alternative outcomes, and to question the inevitability of historical events. In our alternate history, the query leads us to ponder how different alliances, technological developments, or decisions could have reshaped the world. Historical fiction and alternate history narratives serve as bridges between the past and present, offering accessible ways to engage with history. They spark interest and curiosity, which can lead to a deeper exploration of actual historical facts. In our case, the imagined nuclear conflict could inspire viewers to learn more about the real 19th century, its politics, technology, and global dynamics. Our fictional narrative also offers a lens through which to examine human nature and decision-making. By placing contemporary issues like nuclear warfare in a historical context, we gain insights into how humans have responded to challenges and advancements across different eras. It underscores the constants in human behavior, such as the pursuit of power, the fear of the unknown, and the capacity for both destruction and ingenuity. Imagined histories can be valuable educational tools. They encourage lateral thinking, challenge conventional narratives, and provide a unique way to engage with historical content. Students and viewers are prompted to consider how different variables might have changed the course of history, leading to a more nuanced understanding of historical events and trends. These narratives also influence our collective memory and cultural reflections. They contribute to the tapestry of stories that shape our understanding of who we are and where we come from. In imagining a world where the 19th century was marked by nuclear conflict, we also reflect on themes like resilience, the human spirit in the face of adversity, and the moral dilemmas posed by technological advancement. Number 7. Exploring the unseen consequences of alternate histories. This chapter delves into the less obvious, yet equally significant, repercussions of our imagined 19th century nuclear war between Africa, America, and Russia. By exploring these unseen consequences, we gain a deeper understanding of the intricate web of cause and effect in history, both real and imagined. In our alternate scenario, the cultural and social landscape of the 19th century undergoes a seismic shift. The presence of advanced technology in a society not yet ready for it leads to profound changes in social structures, beliefs, and values. The African continent, in this narrative, emerges not just as a victim or a bystander in global politics, but as a powerful entity. This shift challenges existing stereotypes and reshapes the global perception of Africa and its people. In America and Russia, the societal impact of being on the defensive in a global conflict leads to introspection and potentially accelerates movements for reform and change. The social upheaval caused by war and the threat of annihilation could catalyze movements towards greater democracy, equality, and human rights. The horrors and wonders of a nuclear age, appearing prematurely in the 19th century, would undoubtedly inspire artists and writers of the time. The literary and artistic output of this era might reflect the awe and terror of nuclear power, the devastation of war, and the resilience of humanity. This could give rise to new genres and styles, influencing the course of art and literature for generations. The ethical dilemmas posed by such advanced warfare in a relatively primitive era would spark intense philosophical debate. The concepts of moral responsibility, the justifiability of war, and the limits of human power would be hotly debated topics in intellectual circles. This could lead to an early emergence of existentialism and other philosophical movements that grapple with the human condition in the face of overwhelming technological power. The development of nuclear technology in the 19th century would have a paradoxical effect on scientific and technological progress. On the one hand, it could spur advancements in related fields such as physics, chemistry, and engineering. On the other hand, the devastation wrought by this technology might lead to a backlash against scientific pursuit, slowing down innovation in other areas. The ecological devastation of nuclear warfare would bring environmental concerns to the forefront much earlier than in our timeline. This early awareness could lead to the development of environmental movements and policies aimed at conservation and sustainability, changing the trajectory of environmental history. The aftermath of the war would see a reconfiguration of global alliances and power structures. The traditional colonial powers of Europe might find their influence waning, while new powers emerge. This could lead to an early formation of international organizations aimed at preventing global conflicts and promoting cooperation.